Yeah, we are good to go.
Okay, all right.
A very good evening to all present here. Welcome to the second session of the Distinguished Speaker Series. I am Akshita Badkundri from the Student Speaker Nexus, that is TSSN. TSS is a platform of students, by students, for students, created by our team members who are from age groups 16 to 17 years. Our main goal is to connect inspiring speakers with aspiring students by organizing webinars conducted by experienced speakers from various disciplines and all walks of life. We try to help our fellow students to get clarity on various career options and wide spectrum of opportunities in future. Since COVID-19 lockdown, we have conducted 24 sessions in which over 2,000 students have participated. On behalf of the TSSN team, I would like to sincerely welcome and thank Dr. Aravind Chinchure sir for gracing our platform as the second speaker in the TSSN Distinguished Speaker Series. We would also like to welcome our co-organizers from Bangladesh Eukaryotic Gene Expression and Function, EUGEF group, and all participants from India, Bangladesh, and other parts of the globe. Our distinguished speaker, Dr. Aravind Chinchure sir, is one of India's foremost experts on innovation and strategic growth. Sir has a PhD in physics with 20 years of experience in R&D, innovation, intellectual property, venture investment, business strategy, policy, and teaching. He has worked on diverse technology areas in the field of materials, chemistry, physics, electronics, renewable energy, and information technology. Sir has received the Innovation Excellence Award from Indira International for his contribution in spreading awareness on innovation across India. He is a regular speaker at various events in India and abroad on the topic related to innovation, intellectual property, entrepreneurship, and R&D. He has authored 28 research articles published in international journals and has filed 4 patents as lead and co-inventor in different geographies, including US, Europe, and Japan. We're honored to have you, sir. Sir will deliver his lecture first and then answer questions from the participants. Please post your queries in the live chat section. Over to you, sir.
So thank you, Akshita. If you can just switch on your video, Akshita, for a minute. And I would like everyone to see her wall. And there is a pink paper, and that pink paper has a message. It says, dream big. And this talk is all about dreaming big and realizing those dreams. Thank you, Akshita. Thanks for your kind introduction. So let me start my talk. This is something which I have never done. I get to speak almost 3 to 4 times in a month, but no one ever asked me what has been my journey in science. And my journey has been very exciting, very, very adventurous. So I thought, let me share my experience and my journey and what we can learn from that journey. So I thought I will not just share my journey in science, but also I thought, let me go beyond this, my experience. So I thought, let me share my insights of working with some of the legends in science, like Nobel laureates and others. So let me first thank this young team. Just a minute. So this young team, I see in them future leaders, global leaders in making. They have demonstrated what leadership is all about by forming this particular group and ensuring that this students nexus group continues to thrive, get some of the best people to speak and hear these their experiences. So I need to really compliment and thank Akshita, Chinmay, Arushi, Nayan, Athar, Reva, and big group and the team that you have created, and this is a voluntary group, and I can tell you that you are indeed leaders in making. I must also thank Dr. Santosh Dikshit for being mentor to this particular group. And knowing Santosh, I can tell you that the way he nurtures youngsters, that is incredible. And I'm sure all of you might be experiencing his deep commitment and handholding to all of you. So this is such a pleasure to engage, to interact with you for next, say, 1 hour or so. So, I was just trying to see what has been my journey in science. When I look back, that journey of, say, 40 years or so, or 45 years, that journey has been full of twists and turns. It has never been predictable. It has been exciting, adventurous, but I can tell you one thing, that it has been such a fulfilling and meaningful journey so far. And I would say this is like a comma, having a comma in a sentence, that there is yet to, there is a lot of journey that I need to take, go beyond what I have been able to achieve. But whatever I'm going to share is like, that sentence, there is a comma, and this is what I will try to articulate part of my journey. So hopefully after 10 or 20 years, we can do another talk for a remaining exciting journey. If I had to use, say, one phrase about my journey, it is about the power of dreams. And this is a tagline for Honda, which is one of the most innovative companies in the world. And I picked up this particular slide from Honda's repository. It's about dreams. It's about power of dreams, and 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 that dreams, making it reality. So it's a very interesting to share what were my dreams when the dreams were seeded in my life, and what are those twists and turns till I achieved those dreams. So if I recollect, I started enjoying science. When I say science, it's about mathematics and science together when I was in a school. So I used to go to a school in a small village or a small town, which is a border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. Of course, my friends in Bangladesh may not know this geography, but this is a place which is border of two different states in India. A small town. My father was a teacher. If I look around my town, I could hardly see someone who is a scientist, or for example, someone who is working in a research institute, or a professor in a university, or for that matter, someone who is working as a technologist in a large company and trying to develop technologies. I don't remember even knowing someone who is a scientist and have an access to their knowledge, their experience, or they becoming inspiration to me. But one teacher who really inspired me is my science teacher. The best part about my science teacher, I just trying to recollect, when he used to get tired of teaching maths and science. Of course, he was a beautiful teacher. And when his class is towards the end of the say school timing, that is say around 4 p.m. on and so, then he will sit and he will say, let me tell you stories about science fiction. And he used to take us to an entirely different world. As a child, I was not able to imagine that there exists a sea, there is an ocean, there is a ship, and there is a something like submarine on, and all these things, because we were so information constrained that as a child, for us, this particular storytelling by a teacher used to take us to an entirely different world, and that actually seeded some interest in me that one day I should cross this ocean, go to a different world, and the world that my teacher was sharing through stories. By the way, remember this, stories are very powerful. Stories can change people's life. And if these stories are told genuinely, it impacts so much that it can just change your journey and your life, and of course, the society and the world. The best part of my teachers at that time in a small town was that I can always go to their home without informing, because there was no mobile phone, there was no way to communicate. Whenever I wanted to learn science, maths, or any subject, I just go to their place, their home, and they always welcomed us. And I still remember my teacher who used to, I mean, I would just go to his home. He will not say, this is my family time, why you have come. He will always welcome, and I will just sit and I will start solving, mathematics or mathematical problems. And then sometimes I will just go to his room and pull some books and say, sir, can you teach me this? This was like advanced mathematics or advanced science. And he was so happy that a student is asking, uh, to teach something that is advanced, and he used to teach. So that is something that was so unique at that time, that teachers were all the time accessible. School was like a, is like a family, and there is a great bonding, but of course there was a lot of discipline that our teachers brought in us. And here is a big twist and turn in my life. I was a good student, good students of all subjects, not only just science, but science I was very fascinated because of my teacher. I worked very hard, but I failed in a 12th board exam. I'm just trying or sharing with you that that what must have happened to a child. At that time, I started my schooling very early. Maybe I started my schooling at the age of 4, and I was just barely, you know, 16, 17-year-old, or 16, less than 16-year-old, that I worked very hard and then I failed. And today, if when I look at parents and families, if a student, particularly in a board exam, gets less than 90%, they feel that they feel so disappointed about their child getting 90%. So and I failed. I failed because, not that I had not studied, but because I had to go through a very traumatic incident, an incident that we could have been dead, or as a family we could have been burned alive. And that was such a big trauma for me as a child, because uh, everyone will come to us and ask what did that day happen. And I was the eldest. I was like a tape recorder. I used to say that this happened, that happened, this happened, and this used to happen whole day. And people used to give us food. Sometimes they used to invite us to their home for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there was no time, because all my books, everything was burned. There was nothing left when I went and saw my house. So I went through this very traumatic situation, and I couldn't write my exams properly, and I failed. Now imagine a situation that there is a board exam, and in the board exam you fail, and then start, you have inner this urge and dream that one day you will become something um that one can call as a scientist, or as a researcher, or an engineer. And I was just as a I was just trying to uh, keep myself so motivated. But good part at that time was, no one told me that you have failed or they let me down. They just kept, as a family or as a society, they kept me motivated and said, you can do it, you are a good student, because I had put in a lot of hard work. But that year I couldn't. Then I attended another exam and I passed 12th standard, and then I went to do my bachelor in science, the BSc degree in physics, maths, and statistics, because my fascination was physics and mathematics. And then there is a pleasant turn. Last incident was something which was traumatic, negative turn in my life. But here is something that changed my entire life, and my uh, instance, or this incident uh, helped me to define what should I be doing, what is my goal for the rest of my career or my life. So this was, I still remember, this was 1987. I was in a second year of BSc, and there was a competition, and the competition was on picking up or selecting one popular science topic, and then giving a lecture on that popular science topic. And I remember, because 1987 was such an important year in physics, because in 1987 there was a breakthrough in physics, that is called superconductivity. There was a discovery of a superconducting phenomena. Superconductivity is a effect where resistance becomes zero. Your conductivity becomes infinite. So in 1987, there was a breakthrough, and every magazine, or every you take any science or even business magazine, on the front cover there was a news that this discovery is going to change the world. That's called high temperature superconductivity. And I took this topic, and this is a photograph of a library where I used to study. I mean, I used to read a lot. Even when I used to go to college, I spent a lot of time reading all kinds of books, not just the science, but a lot of reading. Because at that time, information was so scarce. Only way you can become more knowledgeable is to read as much as you can. And I took this particular topic, and I was competing entire college level, and I stood first in that competition. Now you may say that we participate in many competitions, and you win the competition. Sometimes you just participate, you may not win the competition. But what can be an impact? Impact can be tremendous, and I will tell you this what was the impact of this particular one competition winning in 1987. So this was a news in 1987 about discovery of high temperature superconductors. And Bednarz and Mueller, they were working in IBM research at Zurich. So they had discovered this phenomena, oxide or ceramics, which are generally insulator, but they becoming superconductor. And they received a Nobel Prize in 1987, which is a big news and in the physics. Now, when I was reading about superconductivity and why there is no resistance, or why certain materials demonstrate infinite conductivity, is because the two electrons come together. And this is very interesting, by the way. Um, uh, so just a minute, I will just take this pointers. There is a pointer. So let's say there is a material and you have this, electrons and other components of the material. And when electron is moving from in that material, so these two electrons, for example, electron 1 and electron 2, they come together. This was something which was very, very fascinating for me, because as a student at that time, I had only learned that same charges cannot come together. They should ripple. But in this phenomena, I see that two electrons are coming together. At that time, I did not know that there is a phenomena which is called, lattice vibrations and phonons. And this is phonon-mediated electron-electron interaction. But I did not have the knowledge about the phonon. And I asked this fundamental question, that why two electrons should attract each other in superconducting materials. So that was my fundamental question. And believe me, after winning my competition, I just ran to my head of the department of physics and I said, please explain to me why these two electrons should come together. Look at that curiosity to learn and to understand certain things that you read, and when you go through certain experience. So my head of the department, he said, look, I don't understand this superconducting phenomena, but my daughter is doing her master's in physics. Why don't you go to home and pick some books and speak to her? And that day I went to his home, I picked up certain books on superconductivity, where this particular phenomena is explained. And now in second year of my BSc, I decided that I will do research in superconductivity. So, so this is the beginning another seed that was sown, that if at all I do science, if at all I do research, I will do research in this exciting field of superconducting materials. Then I was lucky. I did well in my BSc. I was always, stood number one in my college. My marks were very good. Then I could join physics department in Gulbarga University, where I studied my bachelor's. So this was a very new department, and we were so lucky to have teachers from IIT, Pune University, TIFR, BARC, and many other institutes to come and teach physics. And I was lucky that I could do specialization in condensed matter physics, because if you want to study physics, you need to study. So if you want to study superconductivity, one has to do master's specialization in condensed matter physics or solid state physics, and I could do solid state physics. And here is a little bit of, again, twist in my journey. In my journey at this stage is that when I was doing master or MSc, I just happened to apply for a job. Like you have Nehru Center in Mumbai. So there is something called District Science Center in Gulbarga, and they had some education assistant position. I said, let me apply. And I applied, and they selected me. And at that time, in that competition, I had my seniors who had received gold medal and so on. But somehow the committee decided to hire me, and I had not completed my master's. So at that time, towards the end of my master's in physics, I used to do job 11 to 7 p.m. and I used to do my course, my program in the university, and my salary at that time for a education assistant trainee was 1,000 rupees, and later they increased to 1,400 rupees. So and when I was working and I was doing this physics, one thing that happened which was not good is that I was so far I was doing first class, always 60 to 70% marks. and I could not do that. I was just higher second class. So now you imagine, I failed in 12th standard, and in masters, I did not even score 60%. So this is something uh, which is a big setback for many students, because minimum qualifying marks for doing PhD is 60%. So I still remember that I went to my professor from IIT. He was visiting, and I asked him, I want to do PhD in superconductivity in your lab in IIT Madras. And then I went to the guest house, and I was speaking to him and expressing my interest. And he asked, what is your score? I said 56%. He said, you are not eligible. You can't do PhD in IIT. So in IIT, to do PhD, you need to be minimum 60%, but there are students with 70, 80%, they compete nationally to get into IIT for research. I said, fine. So it's okay. Sometimes things don't go, as you think. So then I was teaching in one or two colleges while I was working in Science Center. And one day, see, this is what happens, right? When you have real urge to do something, you will find some solutions. You will find some paths to realize, your dream of, my dream was to do research in superconductivity. So I knew a professor. I mean, knew in a sense, I had heard a talk by Professor S.V. Subramaniam. He was a low temperature physicist from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, one of the very premium research institute in India and globally. And he was doing research on superconductivity. And one day, I just traveled to Bangalore, and I stayed with my friend and went to his lab. And I told Professor Subramaniam that I want to do research. Can you take me as a student? He looked at me, and he looked at my genuineness and my knowledge that I had on superconductivity. And he said, look, only problem is that I can't give you fellowship, but you can do research and earn some money by doing part-time teaching. So I was doing part-time teaching in Gulbarga. So I went to government college and requested head of the department that I want to teach here. And in fact, they gave me part-time teaching offer. I thought, now my dream is going to get realized. Now I'm going to do research. I'm going to do research in superconductivity in Indian Institute of Science. But that did not happen. And that did not happen because that, my father, he called me up and he said, again, let me just give you a little background about my family. So we were four brothers. I was the eldest, and he was a primary teacher and high school teacher. Our incomes were less, four brothers, their education. And, it's a typical story of, my generation. It's not only my story, but, this is a typical situation, most part of India. He called me up and he said, Aravind, someone from a small town, the name of the town is Gunjoti. It's such a small town, I can't tell you that maybe 100, or 200 houses. And since they were very close to a taluka town like Umarga, my Bangladesh friends will not know this, but please, bear with me. In this particular place, small village, they had decided to start a degree college. And that was the first year of their degree college, and they were looking for a physics lecturer. And my father called me up and said, there is an opportunity for a job. Would you like to take up that job? Now, it's always this, dilemma, your dream versus responsibilities. But I always, gave responsibility as the first priority, not just the dream. I said, my dream will get realized, if not now, but later. So I left Bangalore and came to this small village called Gunjoti. And believe me, I started teaching. I was, so since it was a village, there was no restaurant, So there is nothing concept like breakfast. There is no concept like going somewhere and eating a meal in the lunch. So only food that we used to sometimes cook somehow a little bit, but otherwise you just drink tea and uh, some snacks, and then in the evening take a bus to a nearby place called Umarga to have a full meal of the day. And many times we used to miss that also. It was very trying in a way, but my my quest to study and do research never stopped. So I went to the best library nearby. I took some of the best books. I still remember I was at that time reading quantum fluid dynamics and many complex subjects. So and I was keeping track on what's happening in superconductivity research. And now I'm just trying to shorten my story, because from that small town I ended up going to Marathwada University for a short time. And from Marathwada University, I landed up. Now you see, now this next few slides is all about dreams becoming reality. And from small town through in between research work at Marathwada University, I landed up in one of the best institutes in India and in the world to do research in superconductivity. Can you believe this? That something like this can happen ever? Someone who was not that great in academically, um, uh, both at 12th and MSc in masters, but still getting an opportunity to work at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and getting to do research in superconductivity. And this happened because there was a national competition or national scholarships that were available at that time, that were called National Superconductivity Fellowship. So my professor in Aurangabad, he helped me, Professor Shah helped me so much that he allowed me to work in his lab. And from there, he allowed me to go to Pune University. I did some research at Pune University for 2-3 months. And from there, I ended up going to TIFR. And I still remember the day I went to Mumbai for my first visit to TIFR, is that from Pune, I took a bus, Asiad, to Mumbai, and I reached in the evening, and I did not know how to go to this institute. Then I had to stay somewhere in Dadar. I was contemplating I might have to spend my time in the other railway station, but I found some small lodge. Somehow I managed to stay in a 2 feet by 6 feet room, and somehow got up in the morning and cleaned up, and I went, and my life changed. And my professor there, when I met in Tata Institute, when he heard my story and my effort so far, he says that Arvind, I will give you a guest house to stay. So I was staying in a guest house as a student, and I started working. And these, I worked from 1992 to 2000, where it's some of the best times in my life to do research in superconductivity in one of the best labs in the world. Now, next big thing happens. I had not done my PhD, but I had published you know, good research papers in American Physical Society, and then I was invited, to do some summer courses and certain summer schools in Switzerland and also in UK, in Oxford. And even before completing my PhD, one of my dreams was that not only I will do research, but I will one day sit in a flight. I just, in that flight I will go to, and actually I used to dream that I'm in a flight, sitting in a flight, and I'm going to Cambridge or Oxford or something. And that used to be my dreams, sometimes. So you see how things happen. Tata gave me a fellowship to visit Europe. My family helped, and my first visit was at Paul Scherrer Institute, which is one of the premier research institutes in the world for neutron diffraction and synchrotron radiation studies, which is also part of ETH Zurich. ETH is known. Any one of you want to do your, bachelor's, undergrad, or master's, you should go to ETH. It's one of the premier universities in the world where cutting edge research happens. So I stayed here a couple of weeks, and my first I gave my first talk abroad in Zurich in 1995, and this was a great feeling. I still remember I was in the guest house. I did not know how to open the can. I did not know. I know I just bought the, I was a vegetarian. I bought this can with corn, but I don't know how to open. There was a device, but I did not know. I used to take a butter knife and hit and open. So that was, how I survived. But imagine the immense satisfaction that I had to give a talk and work with the top-notch scientists in Zurich. And the next big thing happened from Switzerland. I go to Oxford University. In between, I went to Southampton University. And this is a very unique experience because Oxford, Cambridge, for a scientist, they are like, dream places. So I went there. It was a summer school between Oxford University and Rutherford Lab. And very surprisingly, and the faculty was from all over the world, students were from all over the world. And when they heard about my work in Mumbai, in Tata Institute, they said, I must give a talk in Oxford University. So imagine, a child from a small town is being invited, by, some of the best professors in the world to give a talk to the entire students who were participating in this university. So this was another big thing that happened in my life. So the dreams that I had, the dreams were becoming more and more real. And then what happens, and this is something like unheard of in anyone's life, that after my work at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, I was given a postdoctoral research fellowship at Kemerling Onus Lab in University of Leiden. And you know what is significance of this lab? The significance is that superconductivity field was originated in this particular lab in Leiden University. Imagine, what is possible in life that, I mean, for me, even getting an doing MSc itself was a big thing, and after MSc, doing a PhD in any university would have been a great. But getting to do in Tata Institute, and then doing talks, delivering talks at Cambridge and Oxford and Paul Scherrer was itself is something which was unimaginable for me. But the destiny has to be that I get an opportunity to work at a place where superconductivity field originated. And for me, believe me, it was a temple. I just felt like I'm going to a temple where my field originated. And Leiden University is known for its contribution in 20th century physics. There were like, we read about Lorentz, Ehrenfest, and even Albert Einstein used to visit our institute at that time. I mean, when when this whole new physics was being developed, he was a guest researcher in this university, and together they created this entire new quantum mechanics and many other areas of physics. And getting to work in this university was something which was the biggest you know, unimaginable thing can ever happen to anyone. Something which was impossible became possible, and I could work with Professor John Maidosh. He was a legend in my field. He was the person who wrote a lot about spin glasses and so on. Then I worked with Wim Bosch. He had a startup, and another young professor, Professor Ray Rackamson. And here I was, young Aravind, with full hair on the head. But this was something which was incredible experience for me and my family to be there. So what did I do there? And this was the first time I could really work on developing a technology and also creating a innovation. So there was a question that what is the difference between innovation and invention. So let me explain that through my own innovation that I did, or as a part of the team that we did, is that we developed a device to measure temperature between 1 Kelvin and 1 millikelvin. Millikelvin, remember this, 1 Kelvin is minus 273 degrees Celsius, and millikelvin is 0.00273 degrees Celsius. It's extreme low temperature, and there was no device to measure temperature like a thermometer to measure temperatures between 1 Kelvin and 1 millikelvin. And if you have to do these measurements, there was indirect method. It's a very painful, longer method. So what we decided was, why not we develop a device like a thermometer device to measure these temperatures while we are doing the study. And this, when we developed the first the technology and tested it, it was new, and we can call that, first prototype and set of prototypes that we developed is a invention. But when we develop the entire product, a product that can actually go into the labs or go to the end users, and when they start using this device, then it becomes a innovation. So when invention gets converted into, say, actual application or actual use by the end users, we can call it commercialization, if at all. So invention multiplied by commercialization or implementation of that invention in real life, and people pay for that, or because of that there is a benefit and value that gets created by that device, then it becomes a innovation. Otherwise, it can remain invention. So remember that not every invention becomes innovation. That invention has to be converted into a product or into a solution that the end users buy and use it over a period of time. Then it becomes a innovation. So of course, I can share more details about this, but this was first time in my life that I did science, I did a fundamental research, then I went to develop the technology and also a product or an innovation for the world. This is the first to the world innovation. And also I did discover a new phenomena in a new materials, which is called giant magnetoresistance. And this phenomena generally is used in memory devices, but I will not go there. So I shared about my dreams, and then I shared about reality of those dreams. Now I said, once those dreams got realized, there was some kind of a vacuum in me, because as a child, I was not able to think beyond this, because this itself was an impossible dream. And now I have realized that impossible dream. Then I had two options. So I had an opportunity to work in Germany in Max Planck Institute. Then I also received a job at GE Technology Center in Bangalore. Of course, I had not applied for a job, and remember this, that I had never applied for a job. Always I got the job. People invited me for the job in my entire career. So I said, now that I have realized my dream, now I want to explore the entire world around science, technology, innovation, intellectual property, policy, and many other things, so that I become a better person. So I just wanted to because we did not had this kind of an experience during childhood, I said, let me now, expand my horizon, my perspective, explore and experience the field of, other dimensions of science. So then I worked in GE Global Research. Then I worked in a startup in intellectual property. Then I worked at Honeywell Technology Solutions. I worked in an Indian company, Reliance Industries, and I was working with Dr. Raghunath Mashalkar in Reliance. Then I started new courses on innovation and entrepreneurship in Symbiosis and Flame University. And then I worked in World Bank, and that's how my association with Bangladesh, and I will share some experience of my work in Bangladesh. Then I worked with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, Deshpande Foundation, social work, and this is just a partial list. You can go on and on uh, so I'm working with so many organizations today. So in the area of research, technology, IP, innovation, strategy, social development, entrepreneurship, education, and it has been such an enriching, fulfilling, meaningful life that I'm leading today. And just to share some of the universities that either I have worked directly or sometimes I am associated with them. I have visited there, given the talks. So name the universities, whether it is Oxford, Rutherford, and so many institutes in Germany like Max Planck, Fraunhofer, which are like a cutting edge in the world. Or for example, MIT, Stanford, Princeton. When I went to Princeton first thing I did was I went to a place where Einstein used to stay. And for me, this was such a beautiful feeling, to just go there and see how Einstein used to live in that his apartment. It's amazing. And many other universities in Canada and Europe. So quickly, just now, what I will do is, since I have shared about my dreams, my reality, and beyond, I thought let me quickly share my experience of working with some living legends in science, and some of them are Nobel laureates. So what we can learn from such giants in science. So let me just share about these three legends: Professor Robert Grubbs, Professor John Marie Lane, both are Nobel laureates, and Professor George Whitesides, who is a living legend in science for many reasons. So just I thought, let me give you a different perspective, because there were some questions about technology, innovation, patent on startup and other things. So now I'm talking from a scientist perspective, how these legends in science actually work across this mind to market or idea to impact. So I had a it's incredible experience, to work with or to be associated with Professor Robert Grubbs, the professor at Caltech, received Nobel Prize in 2005. But very interestingly, you see, being Nobel laureates, they have 500 research publications on the best journals. But very interestingly is 100 patents, and which we generally don't see in science. Science, we just focus on research, but being a Nobel laureate, he had 100 patents, and he had his own companies like Materia, and he used to work with other companies. So this is very interesting. When I was looking at these scientists, how they work across, from lab to market. And now, Professor um, uh, John Marie Lane, he's a professor from France. He is also a founder of an institute which is unique and amazing institute in the world, very prestigious, called Supramolecular Science and Engineering in France. So he received Nobel Prize in 1987. Again, very important year for me, because that is the year when superconductivity was also received Nobel Prize. Again, 800 scientific publication, 50 patents, and he has started several companies, and he's associated with companies. Again, look at these, the breadth of this of doing science. One side you are doing research, creating new knowledge, discovering new phenomena, developing technology, but also working with um, uh, with other, like working with the companies and being advisors and so on. And there was one question that was asked is how to balance curricular and extracurricular activity for success. Believe me, if you look at some of the best people in the world, they always have a hobby, or they always have some extracurricular activities. I don't think science can be just done in labs. It will not be. So to get more ideas, to connect several ideas for a breakthrough ideas, you need to have certain extracurricular activities. You need to be physically and emotionally good to become a good scientist. And I can tell you about Professor John Maryland is that his hobbies playing piano, and he plays piano so beautifully, like a professional. And there was a study done. They looked at the Nobel laureates and what kind of activities they do beyond science. And believe me, that one of the criteria people say now to get a Nobel Prize, you need to have this creative hobbies. Some of them paint, some of them play, some of them play music, and so on. So it's very, very important, for success. This both having curriculum, I mean, whatever you are studying, but also extracurricular activity. And this is also very important for Bangladesh, because I know a lot of students just focus on studies. Now, about Professor George Whitesides, professor at Harvard, one of the most decorated living scientists in the world. Now he's 78 or so, 100,000 publications, 100 patents, and he has co-founded 12 companies. And today, the value of these companies, valuation of these startups is $30 billion. Imagine someone, a professor in a lab who is associated with Harvard, can create a science, create a technology that can lead to new startup, and value of these startups is $30 billion. Here is Professor George Whitesides, and here Professor C.K. Prahlad was one of the, he was number one management thinker in the world. And again, there's so much to learn from Professor C.K. Prahlad. He started several companies, and he's also associated with other companies. So what we can learn from these legends in science is that they did fantastic science, great science, but they also developed applications and innovations of their science. This is very important, because sometimes we're just focused on doing science and we let go. But they have done this. But it is not just about this. The impact of science is not about science and innovation, but these are the people who created new jobs. Imagine when you create newer companies, you create new jobs, newer products, newer companies, and then you create a wealth for the country. And this is important. When economically we are sound, we can actually invest more in science, and we can become more socially and economically developed. So that's the power of science and scientists have for the world and for the nation. So now, so this is just another question that I had seen that you had asked is importance and process of idea generation in scientific research. I will talk about idea generation by Professor George Whitesides, but importance of scientific research is this. You can not only do science and create knowledge and build innovations, but create jobs and wealth. But most importantly is bring a difference to the lives of the people. If it is something to do with a device that is related to healthcare, you are basically changing the life of a person. Or if there is a solution that helps in environmental, so you are basically doing something for the climate, for the world. Just quickly, I will go through this Professor Whitesides group. You can go and see his work. He works on variety of things. So remember, these days there is nothing like one area of, suppose I'm a professor of chemistry, doesn't mean that I just work in chemistry. They work in every area around chemistry. So the research is all about interdisciplinary. It is not about one particular area of science. So one of the work that Professor George Whitesides did was something called zero cost diagnostics. And it's a very interesting story. Professor George Whitesides, he travels Africa and India. And when he was traveling India and Africa, he found something very interesting. He said that There are people who are living in villages, don't have access to pathology or diagnostic. For example, if you from Pune or from Dhaka or from Chittagaon, if you just go 50 kilometers from city or 25 kilometers from city, they don't have, place where they can do their blood test, urine test, and so on. He said there is something, you know, wrong. Why poor people should not have access, or people living in rural in India and Africa should not have access to these diagnostic tools. So at that time, he was working on lab on chip, which is a very sophisticated technology. You take semiconductor, create all those channels, and make a small device for, doing blood test and urine test and many other tests. He said that device would cost so high that poor people will not be able to use that particular device. Then he went back and came out with incredible idea. The idea was, he came out was that he said, what is the closest thing that is available today everywhere, which has a property like, say, lab on chip? He found the tissue paper. The tissue paper that we use today in kitchens to toilets. He took the tissue paper and did a very simple chemistry, created some hydrophilic and hydrophobic regions, applied some reagents, and created, just using inkjet printing, he created this postal stamp size device where you can have these chemicals here, and then you put your microliter of blood. The blood or urine goes to different channels and it reacts and it creates different colors, and based on colors you can diagnose what is the problem. And all this happens in 10 to 15 minutes. That's all. Or sometimes you take this smartphone, take a photograph, and quantitatively it brings the numbers. And now they're doing lung function test and many other tests. You can just go to diagnostic for all and see the kind of work they're doing. So what I wanted to share here is that when you want to solve a problem, it is not that every time you have to look at sophisticated technology. You can use simple tissue paper to do this. And therefore, he calls it zero cost, because inkjet printing technology is available. Now you can just, in an hour, you can print thousands of such devices, and which just cost nothing, almost nothing. So that's how, George thinks, Professor Whitesides thinks about technology. Now the same technology is being used for farmers to check animals and other things. Very interesting. So there was a question by one of the students. He says, what should be future perspective of research and science for next decade? I would say that when I look at COVID and other things, that we need to do science that has relevance to the people, society, and planet. And we should bring out that technology and solution which is affordable, that anybody should be able to get an access to that solution. I think while we are doing all frontier science, but we should, at least the next decade, we should look at doing some frugal science. And this is a concept, again, Professor George Whitesides promoted. So last bit of my session. So there was a question about future of healthcare science in the subcontinent, means this part of the world, and how to make governments invest more on research. Very good question. I can tell you that India is investing heavily on healthcare research. Dr. Santosh knows quite a bit about this, but I thought I will share my experience of working in Bangladesh on a World Bank funded project, which is called Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project. That it was a 10-year project, but I worked for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018. And believe me, it was such a big impact of that particular investment in the research, which is relevant to the industry and people, uh, is something which I was not anticipating, that the scientists, because there's so much of constraints in Bangladesh. Of course, there are constraints in India, but there are more constraints in Bangladesh in terms of resources, in terms of money. But with a small money in a short time, with all the bureaucratic things, the team, so World Bank, that Heke project had funded 10 research labs, and all the 10 did incredibly good, far better than the output that we can anticipate in India or Europe. for that time and that finances, investment or research grant. And one such is Professor Yasmin of Silhet, University of Science and Technology. She came out with a diagnostic tool to detect cancer. It's a very, very innovative technology. You don't need reagents, she uses this non-linear optics to do this. And prototype is ready, and soon I hope someone will commercialize the technology. And it is not just Professor Yasmin, Professor Anwar Hussain, Professor Jafar Iqbal, Professor Sham, Professor Noman. Professor Noman is a great, great science leader today with such a big vision for Bangladesh, and Professor Fakhrul Islam and others. And these are the scientists from various universities in Bangladesh, and they are making impact in a very, very different way. And what, in fact, to my friends in Bangladesh is that now World Bank is planning to bring out another project, 10-year project, which is called Higher Education Acceleration and Transformation, with again few $100 million. And if that project comes in, believe me, Bangladesh will be in a different transformational journey when it comes to the science, when it comes to the funding, and when it comes to the policy and overall impact of that science. So let's just conclude here. So just some of the takeaways from this session. So I can tell you with 100% conviction that dreams become reality. For sure, there is no doubt. At least I have seen, not only in my small way, but all the people with whom I worked. So even if you don't have access to the knowledge, access to the people, even if you fail in board exam, it does not matter. It does not matter, what is your background, where you come from, what is your level. Nothing matters, but dreams become reality. But there is a catch. That catch is that your dream has to be genuine dream. It has to be sincere. It has to be honest. It has to be aligned with laws of nature. And I'm saying this laws of nature because I can have a dream to have a negative impact on society, or for that matter, to environment. Such things will not happen. Even something happen is it's not easy. So remember this: you have to have a dream, and it can be unreasonable dream, it can be wildest dream, but you have to work on that dream. And one more, there are some questions. There is a question on bringing dream into reality, practical tips and tricks, and how to bounce back from failures. I have shared this. But remember this: in my journey, I never started working on superconductivity to do my research in TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, or do my research in Kemalingama's lab. No, that was not a destination I was working towards. My dream was to do research in science and in superconductivity and continue to do it. The outcome, the consequence of your effort is that you can get to work in Pune University, you can get to work and deliver a talk in Oxford, Cambridge. It's a consequence, not a destination. So many students, what they do sometimes is, my dream is to go and work in something, MIT. It may happen. I'm not saying that it will not happen, but MIT is a consequence, Stanford is a consequence. But if you are genuinely working now and giving 100% effort, you will definitely reach MIT or maybe something else beyond MIT. So this is something I thought I will share with you. So what basically science offers you? Science actually makes you how to think. So for me, I can work in any field, whether it's a policy, whether it's a management, whether it is Industry 4.0, whether it's a technology, whether it is social development. I can work in across the domains, across the sectors, across the areas, just because I have learned, what I have learned as a physicist is how to think, how to solve the problem, how to think about the problem, how to learn and solve that problem. And of course, science offers you to discover new knowledge and find new solutions. And this is very, very important because these new solutions will have a tremendous impact on people, societies, nations, world, environment, climate, and everything. So that's what science offers you. And scientists can work in any field. It does not matter. You can work in finance, you can work in IT, you can work in social development, you can work in a startup. So when I was doing my PhD, I found out that the best physicists uh, are working in Manhattan in investment banking. If you go to the best brains, if you want to still look at who are the best brains who are working in investment in Manhattan, are physicists and mathematicians and are scientists. Or even for that matter in Pune, one of my friend who's a nuclear physicist, now he's doing the coding at a kernel level. Earlier it was semantic, now it is Veritas, in Veritas. Can you believe a nuclear physicist doing a kernel level uh, coding? So this is the beauty of science. Science basically is, how to think and how to solve the problem. So this is my mantra, and this is what I always experience, that people say, oh, it is a hard work. Believe me, in my, so I'm 52, 53 years old now. Not a once I felt that I have done something hard work, but I'm working 14 to 16 hours. And it is, in fact, not hard work. It's a joy of work, because I felt that work becomes hard, or your efforts become hard when you are not doing something that you really want to do. If you want to do something, you are passionate about it, you are curious about it, there is nothing like hard work. In fact, it's a joy work. So believe me, find that passion, that curiosity. Then nobody has to tell you to study. Nobody has to tell you, oh, pass this exam and so on. So we go into the auto mode. Nobody has to tell. And still, like, I work 14 to 16, 7 days, 365 days a year, and I still joyful. So that's something which. So last takeaway from me is, I always leave on the edge. What I mean is that the moment I become comfortable, the moment things become predictable, things become convenient, I get into a difficult, push myself into difficulty. If Because I want to explore my true potential as a life. I don't want to be in comfort. I don't want to be in convenience. I want difficulties. I want challenges. So what I do is, always I want to be at edge, so that I become a better person. I experience something which others will not be able to experience. I can contribute something which others will not be able to do it. Because once you become a comfort, and every whole world is looking at comfort and convenience, I look at other way. So this is my mantra of successful. And I have lived on my own terms. I mean, I have left jobs the day I was doing so well in the job, the day I felt that, oh, this is becoming routine, comfortable, and so on. So this could be one of the things that one can look at. So the last slide, I know it is 8:10 now. So just to summarize, this is a Patanjali's quote. What he wrote, centuries back. He says, "When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be." And this is what really has happened. So if you have a great purpose, you have some extraordinary project, if you are inspired, you know, everything opens up, and nature makes you sure that it opens up. So let me stop here. Of course, there are certain questions. I can take these questions, or you can suggest, Nayan, how we should proceed.
Sir, so it's 8:10. So I would just I would like to ask that, would it be okay if we extend this session around 10 minutes?
Perfect. I'm fine. Huh? I'm fine with this. So we can extend.
Uh, okay, so we have received some questions.
Yes.
Uh, what is the future of healthcare sciences in the subcontinent, and the way of making what is the future of healthcare sciences in the subcontinent, in India and Bangladesh?
So I can tell you that the future is we have a unique opportunity in healthcare in India and Bangladesh. The reason for this is that our challenges are unique. Our challenges are very different. That's number one. We have a lot of people, so we have more problems to work on. We have more data to gather to develop uh, newer solutions. And what is our strength? If you look at India, or for that matter Bangladesh, what is one unique strength that we have? Our unique strength is people. Once, and the moment I say people or the talent, if we can apply that, our intellect, our knowledge, our experience to solve these problems, believe me, we can actually do pioneering work. And that we have seen, recently we had a talk by Professor Shekhar Mandey on the work that is being done by CSIR. And in response to COVID, now the Indian Council of Scientific and Industrial Research has developed 200 new innovations to take care of COVID-related challenges. So I would, I see a big promise for India and Bangladesh to work on healthcare. Having said this, there are a set of challenges. There are a set of challenges, particularly once you develop the solution, access to the market, and many other things is a big challenge that we have. But otherwise, Bangladesh and India, we have more problems, unique problems to this continent. We have people and we have talent. Together, I think we should be able to do something. And there are good signs today that we can come out with first to India, first to Bangladesh, first to the Asia, and first to the world innovations.
So we'll take the next question. What will be the impact of COVID-19 on innovation, thinking, policies, and action plans?
So let me again, I've just shared, because these were the questions that I had compiled. So what's the world going to be like post-COVID? And what is the impact of COVID-19 on innovation thinking, policies, and action plan? And there was a question on exponential learning, importance of innovation and self-growth, and about national education policy and innovation perspective. Can I answer all these 4 questions, Naman?
Yes, sir.
So let me share where the world is heading. See, world is changing very, very fast. By the time we blink, the world has changed multiple times. So what we call Navan today is that we live in an exponential world, not a linear world. So it is not like linear change; it's an exponential change that is happening in the world. Now, how this exponential change is impacting us as human beings. And there's a beautiful book and series of books by a Professor Yuval Harari. And I request some of you, if you're interested to know about his work, please read this. One book I'm citing is 21 Lessons for 21st Century, but he wrote the first book on Homo sapiens, and then many other books. Very, very well-known thought leader in the world. So he says something very, very interesting. He's saying that machines are going to be more intelligent. And in fact, I see that machines are becoming more intelligent than human beings. So this is happening, and this will happen because we are in a 4th industrial revolution. Now, these machines, the intelligent machines, will hack humans. That's what, and already this is happening, by the way. So what this means is that machines will know about us more than ourselves. So now machines will hack us. So like we know hacking of computers or machines, but now machines will hack us. And there are, Professor Yuval Harari has beautiful videos, and you should go and watch those videos. Now imagine, I'm just asking this question, imagine what it means to all of us when machines become intelligent than humans, when machines hack you, what will happen to humans, and are we prepared for this? Now, next thing that he's talking is, because machines become more intelligent, which means that the the entire production or manufacturing can become automated. So humans are not required there, or anything which is any work that can be automated, can now machines will do it. So if this is so, then he's saying that in the world we will have the rise of a class of useless people. What is that useless people means? You don't have skills that are better than machines. And then imagine a world with people having no job, or you become a useless because machines will take over. Now the question is, how do we handle this? So this has been my next endeavor, or one of the next effort that I'm working on these questions. Are we prepared? And how do we handle this? So that is what I'm trying to now discover and find the solutions to this. And this is one of my model, and that model is, this is my own model. This is not yet published. I'm writing a book, and what I'm saying is that if humans have to be differentiated with machines, we need to equip ourselves with different things, not what you are trying to learn today in schools and universities. Believe me, you are learning something which is outdated already. So I have come out with this model. I'm saying that if you want to be relevant in the fourth industrial revolutions, when machines become intelligent, is the first thing is that you need to be emotionally very, very stable, which means you need to be resilient. Now, for example, when COVID came, all those who were resilient, they were thriving, whether it's the companies, whether it is individuals. And that you can do through, now there is an entire new area which we call it, that you need to be empathetic. You need to build the skill of empathy, mindfulness, growth mindset, and many other things. And most important, remember, is that our focus is on IQ. Now we have to move from IQ to emotional quotient. We have to build this emotional quotient so that we are able to remain calm in a situation that otherwise would have perturbed us, would have made us angry and all negative emotions. So to get rid of these negative emotions, first thing we have to build is this: your inner, your core as a person, so that you can handle any situation. For example, my strength is this: when I was going through death, I did not get angry, but or frustrated or anything. Whenever setback happens, and never gets frustrated, just because for me, uh, I generate new different emotion. And when I was going through that process of uh, you know I could have burned alive. After that, as a child, I generated something called compassion. So now, because of that compassion, I'm a different person. So all these setbacks don't matter. So that's the first thing. Second is, you need to, now once you are emotionally stable, then you have to have those tools to differentiate with machines. And that those tools and skills and methods are related to innovation. You need to be creative, you need to be innovative, you need to be entrepreneurial. So you need to build those skills and learn new methods, new tools. So these are the weapons for you. So once you have a stable as a human, and then you have these tools, so that you can continuously reinvent, invent, innovate to be relevant. And third, you can't get out of technology. So if you want to innovate technology, you should know technology. You need not be an expert in technology. There are experts in technology, but one should build enough knowledge and expertise in technology, so that it enables innovation. So for me, is this 21st century skills. So and if you acquire these and start nurturing these, believe me, you can continue to rise. And I have studied some of the best leaders in the world, and all of them, they fall in this category. Of course, sometimes you can good at here and here, good professional, but or here also good professional, but here you can become leader. So this is, I thought I should share with you, because still you are youngsters. Please build this, and this is what the future is, and this is where you are going to differentiate with humans. Otherwise, machines. Otherwise, machines will take over, and you become redundant, and that's a scary situation.
So I think you've covered all the questions, and the answers were, yeah.
Sorry, Nayan, this is Santosh Dixit. Dr. Chinchure, can you talk a little bit about the national new education policy, because it's very important for people to know about it.
So it's a quick, of course, let me put a disclaimer that I have not studied NEP sentence by sentence, but what I can share is that the new education policies aligned with what I was sharing. That is, how can you become more creative, more innovative? There is a more flexibility in terms of learning, in terms of opting different courses. So whatever was rigid earlier, suppose if I want to do, say engineering in electrical, I had only one particular path to follow. So now you can take breaks during your, education. So I see that NEP is a positive step forward. Of course, there's still a lot of things had to be done, but this is a good, I feel that is a positive step in Indian education system, because why this is important is that we are living in a fourth industrial revolution, and education system is relevant to second industrial revolution. At least I see that slowly we are moving towards fourth industrial revolution. So if not, it's as contemporary as fourth industrial revolution. So NEP is a positive step towards this. But having said this, I would say that individuals have a larger responsibility to build new skills, new behaviors by themselves. So there was one question, how can I learn I can practice innovation or entrepreneurship? See, for being creative and being innovative, you don't need to always get into solving a technological problem. For example, suppose everything that you are doing today, so morning to evening, you can do it differently. And that difference, if it makes positive change in your life, that's a step towards becoming more creative, more innovative, and more entrepreneurial. So last point that I want to make today, and please remember this is all I'm sharing based on my experience of working with, say, chairmen of the companies and so on. So what companies are asking today? Companies are not asking talent or engineers or whatever you are studying, who can follow the instruction, who can come and do some electrical or mechanical or computer science. They say that we don't need such talent in the future. What they are looking at is, so chairmen of the companies are saying that we want talent which is entrepreneurial in nature. Now, being entrepreneurial means that you are already innovative, you are creative, innovative. So being entrepreneurial means that you find the challenges, you find the problems, and also you find creative solutions to those problems. So now companies are asking solution givers or problem solvers, not that, now here is something to be fixed and you just do coding or testing or build. So that era will go very soon.
So I'll now hand over to Chinmay.
Thank you, Nayan. Hello, everyone. I am Chinmay Argade. Before we end this session, I would like to announce our next session, Journey Towards IIT by Vedang Asgaonkar. Vedang Asgaonkar is AIR 7 in JEE Advanced 2020, Maharashtra Rank 1 in JEE Mains, and AIR Rank 1 in KVPY 2019. He will be speaking on exam strategy and practice for the JEE exam. To register, visit our website www.tssn.in. To conclude this session, I would like to propose the vote of thanks. On behalf of the TSSN team and all the participants, I extend our gratitude towards Dr. Aravind Chinchure sir, who took out valuable time from his busy schedule and inspired us with his great thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank the director and team of Eukaryotic Gene Expression and Function Research Group and friends from Bangladesh for their support to this event. A big thanks to all participants as well. It was wonderful having you all. I would also like to thank our mentor, Dr. Santosh Dixit, who has been part of the TSSN team since its beginning. Lastly, every event requires teamwork. So I would like to thank my team members at TSSN for making this event a success. I hope that you all keep supporting the TSSN activities in the future. With this, we come to an end of today's event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chinchure. I think we wish we had more time, but I think we would like to invite you maybe after 6 months when the situation changes and we have more insights into how